I am from the island of Curacao, and Curacao is a Caribbean island on the north coast of Venezuela. I'm mentioning this because it is relevant to what I'm going to talk about. We we in the past in the 1600s and 1500 1600, we used to be a lot of slaves was transported from Africa to the Caribbean to work in to work to work on the land. So Curacao also was one of those islands, and we used to be we still are under the Dutch government. In between the end of 1700 and the beginning of 1800, there was a slavery revolution in Curacao also, headed by Tula, our hero, and for us it's our hero, but it's still considered not a hero. And okay, for us it is our hero because he fought for the to be free, for the all slaves to be free, and that led to slavery to be abolished in 1863. And based on that, the Dutch government, and also based on some stipulations of the United Nations concerning slavery, the transatlantic slavery trade, the Dutch government decided to give their apologies to us, because by us I mean the islands that were the territories that were under the Dutch government in those days. Those are the Netherlands Antilles. Curacao used to be part of the Netherlands Antilles and Suriname. That's for the Caribbean region. So the Dutch government offered their apologies in the 19th of December 2022, end of last year, in which Mr. Rutte, the Prime Minister, gave a speech in which he gives his apologies concerning the slavery trade of the past, and also offered for our hero Tula to be honored, because he wasn't he wasn't honored. Actually, for legal purposes, it was still considered against the law what he did in those times. And Mr. Rutte also offered some considerable amount of money to be used to make the public conscience regarding the slavery trade, and that it happened, and how it happened, and information, and give information, the proper information of those days. So, and also a museum to be built, and money available to make the public conscious about slavery trade. Those are very, very, very good offers. And about 2 weeks ago, yes, I followed information, another speech from another professor, and he was saying that for that actually the economic and the law must be the 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 law aspect also must be considered when of the slavery trade. And he explained it this way. He says the slavery trade was economic because those aspects were not incorporated in the apologies and the speech of the prime minister. So, and that's this professor, his name is Verart. He said that it was the slave trade was an economic thing actually, because the slave owners imported those slaves to these islands for them to work for them, to work the land, and then for them to sell the products to others. So it was an economic, it was business, and the juridical aspect, because Mr. Rutte mentioned in his speech that when slavery happened, it was legal in those days. So by mentioning that, he's like, it's a way like to justify it for in those days, and this new professor is saying that that the Dutch government actually must accept the consider that it was also wrong to have happened in those days. Actually, that it wasn't, that it was a crime against humanity in those days. That they have to accept that, and then and that's the proper way, so that our Tula, our hero, can be honored, and that will also open the possibilities for reparations, for like reparations to be paid for those times, for those, yes, those times, and those and all the things that happened. And I find that it's a very very important aspect also, because the slave trade was an economic thing. It was an economic thing based on the law of those days. So I do agree that for it to be handled properly, that the Dutch government has to consider it and say it also, like a crime against humanity, and then pay the reparations, or at least start talking about the reparations for those days, and honor our hero, because they cannot like say, keep in their thoughts, keep thinking that okay, in those days it was a legal thing, because our hero and the revolt, our hero was on our hero Tula was the man in charge, the top man in during the revolt. So for him to be honored, to be for his honor to be for him to be honored properly, they have to agree that the crime that slavery was a crime against humanity. There is no other way around it for the law, because they accept it and say it and base also their apologies on that, and then also compensate the reparations as like compensations, and also compensate, that's more economic part, but also compensate for those periods, because when the slavery was abolished in 1863, the landowners did get a compensation for their slaves. I saw the document. I went to the museum, and I saw the document in by which they was compensated for the slaves. And on the document you see it also 1863, and it's mentioned, and and it says also compensation for the slaves, that were, because the slavery was abolished. So right now, that living in these times, we have the government, the Dutch government must, I find, so that's my opinion, my humble opinion, that that we must be compensated also. I mean, with we, Curacao and the Netherlands, Antilles and Suriname, must also be compensated for for all of the yeah, for all of the hurt and the damage and the and on all of it. Okay, there is no, it's difficult to give an amount, but at least try, or maybe like an amount, a certain amount, approximate amount for that. But I find that it must be they must do it. And also, besides what I said, also the law, about the law, and then the economic part. And besides that, there is also another aspect that, and that's more the health aspect of the slavery, because that's the traumatic experience that the slave had. It's something that went from generation to generation, and right now we're still having problems, trauma related to that in the Caribbean. But that's also another aspect, but that's something that I will talk about in another video, because it's I have to dig more into that, and then for me to know more and make the video. See you then.